Well, this drug actually makes it pretty much impossible to burn fat as a fuel source. What's up, guys? My name is Lucas, the founder of Ergogenic Health, and my mission is to bring you the most cutting edge health information that you'll struggle to find on Google. So if you do not care about your health, please do not subscribe to my channel. So the purpose of this video is to demonstrate what happens when you use a drug known as mildronate or meldonium, which basically blocks the body's ability to metabolize fats. In addition, I'll sort of go through an overview of the medication itself and how it works. I'll sort of link that to Maria Sharapova, the famous tennis player. I'll sort of outline my 7-day experiment using meldonium. Then I'll also outline when someone would want to actually use this drug, and then some of the other benefits associated with this medication. So many people will know about meldonium or mildronate as the Maria Sharapova drug because Maria Sharapova was banned for 2 years for failed drug test during the Australian Open. And Sharapova was tested positive for the controversial banned medication meldonium during January's Australian Open. And a quote from the article, an independent tribunal appointed under Article 8.1 of the 2016 tennis anti-doping program has found that Maria Sharapova committed an anti-doping rule violation under Article 2.1 of the program, and as a consequence has disqualified the affected results and imposed a period of ineligibility for 2 years commencing on 26th of January 2016. So let's learn a little bit more about meldonium or mildronate. You will be seeing this drug actually linked in the video description down below. It is available for purchase for those who are not competing in the Olympics or who get drug tested, so you can actually use this drug for performance enhancing purposes. What I want to do is take a look at the medication itself. So meldonium, or the commercial name mildronate, was originally synthesized in the mid-1970s at the Institute of Organic Synthesis of the Latvian Soviet Socialist Republic Academy of Sciences. The compound also binds to and hence inhibits the enzyme carnitine acetyltransferase, although this latter effect appears weaker than on gamma-butyryl betaine hydroxylase. According to this biological pathway, meldonium is thought to reduce the endogenous synthesis and biological activity of carnitine. Let's just quickly remind ourselves what carnitine is. Now, many people use L-carnitine to either improve androgen receptor density, enhance fatty acid oxidation, improve mitochondrial function, and it does appear to possess potent effects in these areas. But carnitine buildup also can lead to an increase in TMAO production, and that is how this particular drug is actually protective against cardiovascular disease for those that have a buildup or excess of carnitine in the body. Carnitine does play a crucial role in the transportation of activated long-chain fatty acids and other products of peroxisomal beta-oxidation to the mitochondria. So you can sort of see in this diagram here how meldonium blocks the body's ability to produce carnitine and also affects carnitine synthesis and then also carnitine metabolism as well. So we can see that by reducing the body's carnitine load, we're also seeing a decrease in TMAO circulation, which is thought to be a contributing factor to heart disease, although there are many other factors, not just TMAO, that contribute to this pathway. A little bit more about meldonium. Due to the important regulatory activity on fatty acid metabolism, meldonium is currently used as a cardioprotective drug, especially for enhancing preconditioning-like adaptive responses. The putative effects that have been ascribed to meldonium in animal studies include prevention of atherosclerosis progression, reduction of infarct size following myocardial ischemia, attenuation of ventricular remodeling, protection against left ventricular dysfunction, improvement of functional heart parameters, and decrease of both incidence and severity of cardiac arrhythmias. Notably, this metabolic modulator is not currently approved for the clinical use by the US Food and FDA and in many countries of the European Union, and can only be prescribed in some Eastern European countries such as Russia, Ukraine, Moldova, Belarus, Azerbaijan, and Armenia, or else it can be ordered through many virtual pharmacies on the web. You will see the vendor that I use to acquire Meldonium or Mildronate linked in the video description down below. So let's go through my 7-day experiment using Meldonium or Mildronate. Let me just quickly outline my protocol. I used 500 milligrams of Meldonium twice a day. The first capsule was in the morning and the second was at lunchtime. And I kept my sort of weight training the same. I pretty much train 5 days a week. And so during this experiment, I still adhere to that weight training of 5 days per week. And on average, I sleep about 7.5 hours per night. So I try to keep those variables the same. Now, here's what I noticed pretty much within the first couple of days after dosing Meldonium. Number one was that I had extremely strong carbohydrate cravings. So I was constantly looking for, sugary foods, pasta, rice, oats, fruit. I also noted that my cardio performance was improved. Now, I did mention that I do weight training 5 days a week, but then I also do maybe 1 or 2 days of aerobic training. And during my sprinting sessions, which I do, my cardio seemed a lot better, and I felt like I could sort of do more reps and I had a bit better endurance than usual. Now, what's also really interesting was that I was sweating less during my workouts. And this is something that I noticed pretty much straight away. And this would make sense given the fact that, when you're burning fatty acids or metabolizing fats, this requires more oxygen to basically break down. I also noted better recovery between sets and also that extreme sugar cravings immediately post-workout, which was, very pronounced because sometimes post-workout, I can go another hour or two without any carbohydrates. So that was really interesting. I also noted lower resting heart rate. I do track my heart rate using an Oura ring, and I noticed a lower resting heart rate. Usually my resting heart rate sits around 48 to 50, but this actually knocked it all the way down to about 46 on average. I also noted less muscle soreness than usual. Although this is quite difficult to gauge, and only after 7 days, it's not really much data to, gather more information about muscle soreness. But I did notice, less muscle soreness than usual. In terms of body composition, it was pretty much impossible to determine any changes in my body composition during that period because it's such a short period of time. And obviously 7 days is not enough to fully evaluate its ergogenic effects. But I had to stop due to the insatiable appetite for sugary or carbohydrate-rich foods. In fact, I just never felt satisfied with consuming carbohydrates. So to me, this was an interesting experiment, and it's something that I might revisit in the future for a longer period of time. Or perhaps if I was training for very high intensity sports or athletics, for example, potentially even, with like a 200 meter event or perhaps even a 400 meter race. It may be beneficial under those sort of circumstances. So when would someone use this drug? Well, number one is when you need to perform at low oxygen conditions or under low oxygen conditions. Meldonium is best utilized during hypoxia because it protects the heart against ischemia or loss of oxygen to the heart. Also, number two would be heart conditions or as a preventative aspect prescribed by their doctor, as was the case with Maria Sharapova. Apparently she had a family history of heart disease or cardiovascular disease. She had arrhythmia as well, and so this drug was used. She used this drug to prevent heart attacks or cardiovascular issues. And number three is actually an add-on treatment for diabetes. There's some pretty interesting research suggesting that, Meldonium or Mildronate can actually improve insulin sensitivity, which is, quite interesting. Now, this study below, a little snapshot, is the ability to use Meldonium as an adaptogen in winter in patients with cardiovascular disease. So they're starting to see that Mildronate, or this study was back in 2014, that Mildronate possesses some degree of adaptogenic qualities. Here are some of the other benefits associated with Meldonium. This study was conducted in boars, but we can see the title of the study was Effects of Meldonium on Sexual Performance, Sperm Motility, Testes Morphology, and Blood Biochemical Markers in Boars. Now, obviously, we cannot extrapolate this data and say it's applicable to humans, but interestingly, 90-day administration of Meldonium improved sexual performance and sperm motility of boars, and it also increased the concentration of testosterone in blood serum. So that's also really interesting to note. So what have I gathered from this experiment? Well, number one, Meldonium is not appropriate for recreational athletes like myself, particularly for someone who tends to lift a lot of weights. I don't really see this drug as beneficial for, weightlifting performance. Number two is that Meldonium is the most potent way to shift your primary fuel source to carbohydrates. It can, really ramp up carbohydrate metabolism. And so for individuals that like to be on a very high carbohydrate diet, Meldonium or mildronate can be beneficial, i.e. for tennis players, cyclists, swimmers, like I mentioned, some runners before. Now, whether it's truly performance enhancing is quite difficult to say. If anything, it's likely that Meldonium would improve mitochondrial function, improve ATP production, and also protect the heart from a longevity standpoint from a vigorous exercise. The other question here is also whether or not this would be a good compound to get leaner. Now, my opinion here is that Meldonium is not going to be very beneficial in terms of leaning out or getting leaner, despite the fact that it actually enhances insulin sensitivity. For me, this medication was quite interesting to look at based on the literature, and then also apply it to my own biology and physiology. If you do want to purchase Meldonium, you will be seeing that linked down below in the video description. Hopefully you learned something new in this video, and hopefully this new drug inspires you, or maybe even just makes you interested in learning more about some of these performance enhancing agents, as many of these compounds do interest me. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.